Do you ever waste your time? Now, hold on. Before you answer, I'm not talking about the normal forms of wasting time. When we think of wasting time, we often think of those deviations from our normal routines. We think of the unexpected call we answered from a friend, or we think about that time we were really tired on Sunday afternoon and we took a nap. Or maybe we think about that time where we stayed up pretty much way too late on that video game that we played. While those may be considered or may not be considered wasting time, the truth of the matter is that those forms of wasting time are more obvious and the much more dangerous forms of wasting time are not so obvious. When I talk about wasting time today, I'm not talking about those deviations from your normal routines. I'm talking often about the routines themselves. Now, as adults, we go through life and we've picked up a lot of things. We've picked up a lot of habits. We've picked up a lot of ideas and we've picked up a lot of choices that we've made consistently. And in that complex web of layers of choices and habits and consistent things we're doing, we have the content of our life. Now, there's some wonderful things in that content, but maybe there's also some things that if you could intend it to be a little bit different, maybe you would change just a bit. Maybe you wouldn't have the same intentions that you've just organically developed as you've grown into an adult and as you have been taking actions as an adult. Some of our biggest time wasters are not the deviations, and we waste a lot of time on seemingly ordinary routines that consume us and leave us feeling unfulfilled. And as creative people, as people who want to take more creative action, it's worthwhile to think about how we're spending our time and think about whether the way we're spending our time actually aligns with our values. Let's take a popular example, and that's screen usage, right? Or online technology. Now, it's estimated that the average adult spends 12 hours and 31 minutes a day absorbed in media. Yes, that's 12 hours and 31 minutes a day. Over half the day is spent absorbed in somebody else's narrative. It's kind of a scary thought when you think about it because they made a whole movie called Matrix on the premise that you get plugged into a false narrative and then you operate in that false narrative. Well, we kind of, in a way, live in a society where a lot of people are plugging into a matrix of media absorbed in other people's narratives. Now, that 12 hours and 31 minutes, they estimated that that's what it was in 2023. They estimate in 2026 that the number or the hours spent for the average adult is going to be closer to 14 hours. So this is a trend that's increasing. People are more and more absorbed constantly in media. And at a certain point, we have to wonder, is the technology and the media, is that really something we're consuming, or is that something that's actually consuming us? Now, the relationship between man and society is going to be a long debate, and it's an interesting debate in the 21st century. We're definitely not going to answer all the questions here. In fact, I'm not even saying that 12 hours and 31 minutes is necessarily bad for every person. It's really up to each individual person to decide what's right for them. But think about it. How many people, I wonder, intentionally decide to absorb themselves in other people's narratives for 12 hours and 31 minutes every day, right? We often spend a lot of our time doing things without thinking about them, and it's a part of our routine. Now, technology is everybody's favorite thing to criticize because it's so obvious and there's so much of it in this current time we're living in. I want to draw this, though, to other areas of your life. Where do you spend your time in the other areas of your life? Think about, for example, the choices that you make on your well-being. Think about the time you spend sleeping and eating and on exercise and on personal hygiene. The choices that people make in those areas either enrich them, empower them, sustain them, or it can also demolish them both physically and mentally. So the way you're taking care of yourself and the decisions and the way you're investing time into taking care of yourself absolutely matters. Think about the time that you spend on civic engagement. Now, it's really important that you're involved, that you know what's going on, and that you're representing yourself and the things you believe in the way that's appropriate. But if we look around, we often see people are not really doing that. What they're doing is they're really almost feeding or fostering kind of this internal toxicity, right? They see things on the outside, they see things that make them angry. They keep focusing on the things that are making them so angry. All they can see are the people around that are doing bad things. And it's feeding almost this internal toxicity that's eroding them from the inside out. How many people where the content of their life is that toxicity? And that must be a sad way to live. Think about also the time you spend on work or this time you spend traveling to work. All that time you spend on work and travel, that's you earning a living. But in many cases, are you actually earning a living if you're feeling miserable, if you're not in the right fit for you, a job that's not a good fit for you, if you don't like the people you're working with, if you don't respect the work you're doing? Is that actually a good fit for you? Is that actually making a living, or is that going through the motions because society told you that's what you have to do? So think about all these areas that you're investing your time into. And I've created a worksheet for you, and I'd love for you to go download it and look it over. It's got 12 areas on there. And those 12 areas are where you're spending your time. Good management of where you're spending your time starts with awareness of where you're spending your time. So I want you to think about this. Think about how long you spend on work. And these are really the 12 areas. How long you spend on work, on travel, sleeping, personal hygiene, exercise, clubs and civic engagement. Think about the time you're spending on recreation, chores, socializing, screen time, anything else that I didn't just say there, if there's something specific to you. And then finally, the 12th thing, the creative action part. Now, the reality is that if you're watching this, you're probably interested in taking creative action. You're probably interested and inspired when you do the creative things that bring you a sense of creative joy or even feel like playing. And that's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? Think about, in my life, have I made the intention to prioritize at least 30 minutes, maybe as much as 90 minutes, for creative play, for creative action taking, for creative discovery? And I would encourage you to look at all the time you're spending. In this worksheet, what you do is you look at how many hours you're spending per week, right? And list out for your work, for your personal hygiene, for your exercise, your sleeping, your screen time. Think about all these areas that we just talked about and think about, okay, I'm spending my time on these areas. What time do I have for the creative action? And if you have time in your schedule, I encourage you to make an intention to practice your creative action 30 to 90 minutes. I don't care if you do it good. I don't even care what it is. For some of you, that might be drawing or painting or writing that novel or making blog posts, recording podcasts, recording videos like this one, maybe even asking ChatGPT questions. Again, I'm not here to judge what you consider creative play and creative action taking. I'm just encouraging you to make it consistent every day and look at your schedule now. Think about where you're spending your time. Think about what things are not aligned with where you want to be and what you want to do, so that you're actually having a content of your life that you can be proud of and that can inspire you. And then find specific time in your life where you can actually engage in creative action and practice your voice. Your voice will be empowered by the content of your life. So be aware of what the content of your life is. And I encourage you to prioritize some of that content of your life to be creative action taking. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.